KNAC.com. Francisco here, otherwise known as Metal X Candy on the socials. Thanks for checking in. I am here with one of the most recognizable voices in rock and metal, John Bush. How you doing?
What's up, brother? How are you, Francisco?
I'm great, man. It's great to talk to you. A legendary voice, like I said, from Armored
Thank you.
Saint here, boys from the East LA area. I
El
don't know if
Sereno,
you
to be precise, if you want. Yeah,
precise because that's my hometown as well.
awesome.
Yeah, I went to
What
Woodrow
street?
Wilson's
What street did you grow up on?
right on Eastern.
On Eastern.
Right on
Wow,
Eastern, right by the
awesome.
park right there. Yeah.
El Sereno Junior High, man.
El Sereno Junior High and Sierra Park Elementary.
There used to be a cool store where you bought records. You might be too young. I don't know if you remember, but it was called Kaz Cameras, and that was a place. It was close to Huntington Drive, but it was on Eastern, and it sold cameras, and it was like a mom and pop shop, but they also sold records, and I think that's where I got a lot of my first records, Kaz Cameras. So right there on Eastern.
was was that by the old post office?
Um, when was the post office? What was the cross street
I think it
there?
was
I don't,
maybe Lombardi, I forget. Like,
you
but it was kind
know,
of in the little busy area where the little stores were at.
like I said, it was closer to Huntington Drive. It was on the east side of the street, but I don't know. I think it was out of my way to walk home because
Oh,
I used to walk on a street called Templeton. I think Templeton
yeah,
went all the way to
Templeton.
Eastern. But and Gonzo and Phil lived on Warwick. They still do actually. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, they're still keeping it real, man. They still live in El Sereno. But
That's awesome.
I went out of my way to that place to get records, and I think the first couple records I ever bought was at Cas Cameras. No, obviously it's not there anymore, but hey.
No, unfortunately, that town changed quite a bit since then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to thank my brother because he was of that era, about like 7 years older than me, more or less.
Got it.
And he's actually the one that turned me on to Armored Saint. He's pretty
Cool.
much the one that got me into like rock and metal, you know?
Good for him.
Yeah, I thank him a lot every day. And Armored Saint was one of his favorite bands, and I think it was maybe because of the El Sereno connection. But you know,
Yeah.
but there was also that brother dynamic with the Sandoval brothers, and like him.
Right.
He's the reason I also like picked up drums. He picked up the guitar. I picked up drums. I'm like that's what
Yeah.
I did. But
You can jam
uh,
together. I had a
we
little,
jam. We unfortunately never got to the chance to jam. But
ah, I had a
maybe in
couple
my
older
head, yeah.
brothers too, and they turned me on to a lot of music as well. So, that's what people do. So,
Yeah, you got to pass it on to the next generation, right? Like, I mean,
well, yeah, and it's funny because at our shows, and you'll see it in a lot of bands from our era shows that you'll see, I mean, you might even see three generations. You could see a grandfather, father, son combination, or at a show now because, um, everybody's older. So obviously, if you were from the '80s, it's a good chance that you had a son young, and you had now that your son's having a son young, and
yeah.
you could have three generations at a show, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it's exciting to see because they're teaching their kids right, you know?
Right. Well,
Yeah,
there's a
they
lot of
do.
crappy music out there, so we want to try to steer them away from that. So,
Yeah, I highly agree, sir. Thank you very much for saying that. Yes. Um, Armored Saint having been around since 82, what was going on at the time when you guys were kind of starting to branch out there? Like, what was your perspective of the scene? What was going on with you?
well, we've followed bands like Quiet Riot and Motley Crue, and they've followed bands like Van Halen and Smile, which is also another cool band back from that era. And they never really quite got their opportunities, but they were still a really cool band. And then, I mean, heck, I guess you can go back to the Doors actually before that. But we were just kind of the LA heavy metal hard rock scene was really blossoming at that time in the early '80s, and we wanted to be part of it like a lot of people did, and we were. We started getting a pretty big following, courtesy of a lot of fans and friends who would go kind of berserk at our shows, and we were grateful to them that they made a lot of people feel like, wow, this band is big, and look at their fans, and they're crazy. And it was really pretty much a small group of friends that kind of got it going, but. It was cool. It really kind of it really it caught on like fire, and it spread pretty rapidly. So we were lucky enough to get a pretty big buzz in LA rather quickly. And we just wanted to play all the places that people were playing. The Troubadour and the Roxy and the Country Club out in the Valley, and There's places in Pasadena, which was the places that we kind of started because that was close to our hood. So we would play the Ice House, which is really a comedy,
The
uh,
comedy house?
the comedy club, but
Oh, wow.
they would have rock shows. And then there was a place called the Oddfellows Hall, which was really cool. Like it was like a moose lodge there in Pasadena, and we
Wow.
played. That was I love that venue. Saw cool venue shows there as well as played one good shows there. And then then eventually it was a club called Pookie's, which was a deli. These are the clubs that were happening in Pasadena at the time, and then it really helped to just kind of get the ball rolling and we were lucky. Armored Saint got together and really made things happen, like I said, really quickly. And um, it was fun.
Yeah. And eventually caught the attention of Brian Slago and, got you on the compilation. How did that conversation go?
Yeah, Brian, took interest in us. He wanted to see us, and he came to a show. I think it was like a New Year's Eve show at the Troubadour, which was a weird night to play.
Cool.
And we ended up doing it, and he came, and we're like, "Whoa, that him? Is that Brian Slagle? Is that the guy?" And I don't know what we were anticipating he would look like, but it was like, "There's Brian." He was a young guy. He was still kind of bald at the time. He was young. Unfortunately, lost his hair when he was young, but he had spikes and his leathers on, and we're like, "Yeah, that's him." And we had a conversation, and he's like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's put out a song on Metal Massacre." So we were fortunate because he had a connection with Merciful Fate, who was supposed to be the song on the second Metal Massacre, and for whatever reason, again, this is way prior to internet, phones, you name it, cell phones. He had lost contact with them. I think they might have. I don't know for sure. It's such a long time ago. I'm still speculating whether this is the true story, but I think he had contact with their manager, but he didn't have contact with them, and they parted ways with their manager, so the manager wouldn't give him the number to the band, so he lost contact with them. So he had to put
Wow.
up a spot, and he said, "Why don't you guys make a demo? And if you do, I'll put one of your songs on." And that got us Lesson Will Learn onto the first Metal Massacre. So.
That's
Um,
awesome.
it was cool. It was a pretty, it was meant to be.
Yeah, like a good chance the door opened up for you and look what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Where in the early days did you guys record?
We recorded at a place called Track Record. That was a place that we made our first recordings. We recorded with Bill Matoyer, who's a legendary engineer, has done tons of metal records on
Good
Metal
buddy.
Blade and other bands. As a matter of fact, Bill just engineered the guitar parts on our newest record. So here we are working with Bill still after all these years, 40 years
Yeah.
later, which is really remarkable. And he's
Mhm.
awesome. And
He's a
um,
great guy.
he's great. He's got his sarcastic sense of humor and I love Bill. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool. He recorded us, and we were like, "We're running late. We're trying to pick up beer," and he's like, "What?" And then maybe something else as well, but I won't go there. And then we got to the studio, and then we basically recorded through the night. And we were kind of like on spec time, so because we didn't have money, so they gave us a good deal to record like probably like from 10 p.m. on, and so we recorded it through the night, and we recorded that stuff live. I might have re-recorded some vocal parts, but I don't even know if I did. I think most of it was just all recorded live, and
Mhm.
that became Lesson Well Learned. Uh, it was the first demo was Lesson Well Learned, No Reason to Live, which is like our ballad song, On the Way, which is a great tune, Stricken by Fate, which ended up on the March of the Saint record, and False Alarm, which also ended up on the March of the Saint record, but was on the EP that we put out first, the first three-song EP. And it was a great demo. And we started sending it out and doing what a
Mhm.
lot of bands did, like Metallica and you name it, everybody else, and getting pen pals through Europe and throughout the States, everywhere, you name it. And we'll just send out demos. And then we started getting a global reputation.
Right on. You mentioned Metallica. We'll touch base on that in a second, but let's kind of come to the topic at hand. You're going to be revisiting a pretty great era um, when you had your stint with Anthrax.
Right.
Again, this was a way that me and my brother connected because he was a fan of Armored Saint and I was a fan of Anthrax. So when he jumped on board with and you joined Anthrax, that was another thing we bonded over. And Sound of White Noise, my God, that was a great. It's still a phenomenal album, one of my favorite albums of all time, and
Well,
just
thanks.
your voice that you brought on. So yes, you're bringing back some of these old classic Anthrax songs. What's going on with that?
Well, I've been talking about it for a long time, and I've been wanting to do it. And those guys don't really play that material too much, which I get it. Joey, maybe is figuring he has his own stuff. Obviously, the '80s stuff. Plus, they've made like 2 to 3 records. I think they're finishing their third album since he's been back in the band. So I understand they have a lot of material to choose from, and sometimes it's hard for singers to sing other people's stuff. I get it. But my whole thing was like, well, I don't want that stuff to just kind of end up in like oblivion here. It'd be sad for me as well as the band and
Yeah.
fans, and I don't want it to fade away. So I've been talking about going out and doing something. I just haven't really had the time and kind of figuring out when to make it work. And finally, my agent Dan DeVito, him and I we've been talking out for a year. He's been really the motivating force behind it. He's like, dude. Stop, let's just do it. And so we finally did. So we booked some dates in December, and it's 3 shows, one in the West Coast,
Mhm.
Midwest, and East Coast. And we're gonna, I'm gonna finally stick my neck out and go for it. And it's been great. The response has been awesome, and shows are
Hell
doing
yeah.
well. And it's gonna be fun to play those tunes live. I miss them, and I mean, some of those records are 20 to 30 years old. Even when We Come For You All, which is the most recent of the four, came
Mhm.
out in '03, so it's over 20 years old. So it's old material, and obviously it's not new material that I'm making, but
Mhm.
it's old material that I think a lot of people are going to be excited to hear and feel nostalgic
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
remember some cool classic tunes as well as maybe some deep tracks. And it's going to be fun to
Yeah.
play 'em. I've been practicing them here and there,
Yeah.
and it's been fun.
Songs that probably have never been done live before.
Certainly some that might not have been.
Yeah.
It's been interesting. We've had some people writing to the Instagram page. I finally got on social media after years of resisting, but
Yeah.
um,
Thanks for following.
I fought it for a long time. But my agent Dan was like, "Dude, you got to do something," and I was like, "Okay," um, reluctantly. But I know there's pros and cons, of course. But in any case, so it's funny because people have been saying, play this song and play that song, and some that I was very surprised about. So I was like, wow, I might have to learn that one because I don't think we ever did it. So, but it'll be fun. I don't want to inundate, the Category 7 guys who we put out a record last year. Those
Yeah.
guys are going to be my backup band along with Joey. Um, and it's going to be, I don't want to inundate them. I've already said, like, okay, here's 25 songs. And they're like, dude. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I can't just go, we're going to play these obvious choices and that's it. Like to me, as a fan, I would want a little more. And I'm always a fan of bands, still. And so I kind of have my own expectations of what I want to see and hear. And so I think it's important to dig a little deeper. You can't just go, yeah, here's the obvious choices. But I want to be reasonable and fair with them and to myself because there's a lot
Sure.
to learn. And even though a lot of lyrics are coming back to me, I have to kind of relearn some songs, obviously.
Definitely.
But it's gonna be fun. Yeah, it's cool. I think it's gonna be a good combination of tunes, and I think it's a little nostalgic, and I think that's a good
Sure.
thing.
I teach over here at the School of Rock in Burbank. Shout out to School of Rock.
Nice.
We
Yeah.
do themes, and this season I'm doing the Big Four, and
Awesome.
of course Anthrax there. And then I didn't even have to say it. One of my students actually had asked, "Hey, are we gonna do only?" And I was like, "Oh." That got me in the heart. I was like, "That's
That's
cool that you
cool.
guys know that." So I think
Yeah.
we're gonna have to include that in our set list. So
Yeah, Only is a big song. Yeah, I mean, I trip
yeah,
out. And YouTube has like 5 million views, and it's a big song. So,
yeah,
it was certainly the biggest song of my time in Anthrax, and it's always a
mhm,
great live tune. And it
yeah.
was even when I remember when we were working on it, I was going, "Wow, this sounds different." It doesn't sound like
Yes.
an obvious heavy metal riff. It was different. It was very creative.
Hmm. It's definitely my go-to song sometimes when I go karaoke.
Nice. I want to hear you
I
sing
try
it.
and get that John Bush raspy,
It
like,
is in karaoke, which is pretty cool.
yeah, everything is oh,
Hey,
that's
you
terrible.
sound good. You sound good.
um, I wanted to touch on the subject of, I mean, this is also one of my favorite records, Stomp 442. Um, I don't know if it had really been documented, but Dimebag Darrell for a time was pretty much an Anthrax member because he was doing quite a few appearances on your records, right? He did
He
like a lot of the
did. He did.
solos. Tell us about Dimebag. Tell us about the time that you spent with him.
Well, after you had the Stomp record up there, and after Sound of White Noise, we Danny Splits left the band, and we never really officially replaced him. Paul Crook came out and played on some solos on some songs, and he actually did two tours with the band. That one, and We've Come for You. Excuse me, the Volume 8 record. But we didn't really officially bring him into the band, and so he was kind of the touring guitar player, and Charlie and Scott were very good friends we all were, of course, with Dimebag, but in particular those guys, and so they were like, maybe we'll have Dime, ask him if he wants to play a couple leads, and that was on Stomp. And of course he was like, yeah, man, yeah, I'd love to, and he sent me some tunes, and so we let him pick what tunes he wanted to do, and so he played some leads, and I'm just, it's Dime, and obviously he's amazing. Then we ended up
Mhm.
doing a tour. It was kind of a couple years after Stomp came out, and it was before Volume 8 was actually officially even finished recording. But we did two back-to-back tours with Pantera, end of '97 and beginning '98. So I think that was it. And so we just were on the road with those guys, and we got to know them really well and had a lot of fun and had some great shows. And so we followed that up with, hey, might as well, you want to play a couple leads on this album? And he's like, of course. So he played the lead on Inside Out, which is a great album. I mean, a great song and killer video. And so then by We Come For You All, even though we brought Rob Caggiano into the fold, I think we still had Dime playing a song or two, at least Cadillac Rock Box, which was the song that we have the intro of Dime calling Charlie and leaving a message because Charlie
Mhm.
sent him a couple ideas and go, here's some tunes. And so he was calling him back and leaving a voicemail message, from the Cadillac Rock Box, which was his vehicle, and saying he was playing some tunes. And so we put that on the intro of that song. But yeah, it was great. He was kind of like our official, unofficial guitar player at that time, and as the lead guitar player. And of course, he had his other gig that was pretty big. But yeah, it was cool. It was a great guy, and Dime's presence was awesome because he was just a jovial dude. Beyond being this incredible guitar player, anytime he walked in the room, he would light it up because that's the kind of guy he was, and Vinny as well, of course. But it was just they had that spirit, that Abbott spirit of just being just really enthusiastic about everything. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever saw Dime like mad about something. I just can't even imagine him being mad. He just was not that kind of guy. He was always happy. So
Mhm. And you mentioned Inside Out. Um, that was the video you guys did the little Twilight Zone on,
right,
right?
that was
Yeah,
cool.
that was cool. Like I was like watching, I was like, wait a minute, I know where this is from, and
Right.
it was really great. Whose idea was that?
The director actually, his name was Marco Siega. He did a couple of videos. He did the Fuel video as well. Um, and he had the idea of doing that, and it was really cool. We actually went to somewhere in the valley. There was a hangar, a plane hangar where the people shot stuff in planes,
Yeah.
and so we shot it in there. And the weird thing about that video is that they had this idea of me wearing these contacts. So if you see my eyes at the very
At
end,
the end,
at
yeah.
the end, I'm wearing these contacts, but they were hard contacts. I never wore contacts before. And dude, so I was wearing these things that were super hard on your eyes. Then they were spraying us with these gnarly hoses of water. When I look up at the end of that scene in the
Yeah.
plane, I couldn't even look. I couldn't, literally my eyes were jacked up for a couple of days. So
Oh,
I kind
really?
of look up and I'm like looking like I'm gonna be crying or something because I could not open my eyes. They were in just
Really?
major pain. And but it's funny now looking back. But yeah, it was a great video. It was really cool. The actor did a great job doing the William Shatner part, and it was fun. It was fun to do that video.
Yeah, it was a great video. From Twilight Zone, and then you have the greatest artist of all time, Alex Ross,
Yeah, that was cool. He did
doing
that.
your
That was
cover
pretty
artwork.
awesome.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
did that come about?
That was cool. I mean, Charlie, he was always, Charlie and Scott, big comic fans, and people fans of that kind of art, and so he's like, let me ask him to see if we can ask this guy if he'll do it, and he did, and it was really cool. It's a great cover.
Yeah, I love some of his artwork, especially like some of the Joker stuff and Batman stuff that he's done. Amazing artist. We're here with John Bush, again, one of the most recognizable voices in rock and metal, talking about bringing some of the Anthrax songs back to life in December at the Whiskey on the 13th, out in Illinois on the 18th, and out in New York on the 20th. Um, now, I think we're almost out of time, and I appreciate your time greatly.
Thank you, brother. It's
Um,
a good interview.
Uh, I wanted to touch on the Metallica subject. When you were like, with when Armored Saint was starting to get some traction, what was the connection going on with Metallica?
Well, we had played some shows together, and I guess they, were interested in maybe me singing for the band if James was not quite sure he was wanted to tackle that role as the lead vocalist. And I was, of course, always flattered. I always joke about it. I'm the guy who said no to Metallica, the biggest moron in heavy metal history, rock and roll history, maybe. But it just was never my destiny. And like I say, I can't imagine a world where James Hetfield wasn't the singer. So imagine that. That would have changed metal. It really would
The
have.
what
With
if of the
James
metal world. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, he was destined to be a singer, and what a great singer James became. He really
Mhm.
did. He really, if you listen to Kill 'Em All, whether you love Kill 'Em All and you prefer that, or you go all the way to their most recent record, just his development as a singer was just really amazing.
Mhm.
And he's always been a great front man. Let's face it. So
Yeah.
it's just I was of course always flattered. It just wasn't my destiny. For me, Armored Saint, as we've talked about, we grew up together. We known each other since we were like 9 years old, and
Yeah.
beyond being bandmates, we're friends. And
Yeah.
so even at that time, in that early time of Armored Saint, we still had like a decade of a history of friendship. So
Mhm.
for me to go, I'm going to go quit this band and join this other band made no sense to me. I was like, well, I don't want to do that. Like, we're
Yeah.
doing good, and
Yeah.
I like them, and that's flattering. But I just like I'm happy in my band. So
Right.
that was really the logical reason. And again, it just wasn't my fate. But of
Mhm.
course, always flattered. And I just said recently that we played the Sonic Temple Festival in Columbus a couple months ago, and those guys actually came and watched us play, which is hilarious because we went on at 3 in the afternoon, and they went on at like 9, and there they were on the side of the stage, and I was like, wow, they're actually here, and I wouldn't have even come, like I'd be sleeping still. So it was very, very cool they did that, and we're eternally grateful for all the love they've given us through the years. So.
Hmm. What had inspired you as a vocalist? Who were the people that you were admiring?
All the people that, I really kind of figure out, I really started getting into rock and roll at my early, probably like 9, 10 years of age. I mean, my brother, the oldest brother, exposed me to Sabbath when I was 9, Zeppelin. Of course, I love Ozzy and Plant, then I went on to guys like Phil Mogg of UFO, which, by the way, Armored Saints starting a tour tomorrow with Michael Schenker here in Southern California. We're going to run for about 2 weeks and play a show here in Saban Theater here in tomorrow, Friday night in Beverly Hills. It's going to be awesome. But I was listening to all those guys, Phil Mogg, Phil Lynott, Halford, of course, Dio, Bruce Dickinson, Lemmy.
Of
I
course.
liked a lot of soul singers from,
Oh.
guys like Lionel Richie and Maurice White and Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye. So I liked a lot of R&B, and I liked a lot of rock, and I kind of modeled myself after all those guys and tried to just create my own singing style and just really try to be specific in having my own sound. And people are like, oh, I have a 4 octave range, and I was like, I don't know what I have. I just go and do it and try not to get hoarse afterwards. So,
Yeah.
but I think it was important to just kind of develop your own style. That's what I would tell
Yeah.
people as singers, musicians, create your own identity, and that's the most
Yeah.
important thing. You can a lot of shredders, a lot of great singers, a lot of
Yeah.
killer drummers, but try to create your own style. That's the most important thing
Yeah.
in the music, and that's
Yeah.
not the easy thing to do. It's hard.
No, it's not. It's not like you just like you said earlier. Like a lot of modern music sucks, and it's because it's all a cookie cutter. It's all like the same thing that you've heard over and over again.
Yeah.
You don't. They're not trying to stand out. They're actually blending in with like everything that's hot. You
And
know.
I understand that because you get caught up in your peers. I mean, we did. It took a while
Yeah.
for Armored Saint to kind of figure out our sound a little bit. It took a while actually, but
Hmm.
then we finally started, saying well, let's take chances and not really feel like we're kind of confined to anything. Let's just always push the boundaries. And I think that's the important thing. If you're a new musician or a singer, and I'd say just listen to lots of music. Don't just get. You might
Yeah.
love metal, that's great, but listen to lots of music. Listen to jazz. Listen to John
Wow.
Coltrane. Listen
Hmm.
to everything, just so you can get it all in your system, and then it'll kind of get in there and digest. And next thing you know, when you're doing something, you'll kind of use all those influences, and that'll
Yeah.
help with identity.
Yeah. You vomit out some good art. You never know.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Are we out of time? Do you have another interview right now?
I do actually. Yeah, I have three
Okay.
today. So, but
Okay. I don't
this
want
has
to. I
been
don't want
fun.
to like. Huh?
This has been great. It's been a good chat.
Likewise, brother. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Last time chatted with you was Bowl for Ronnie, not last year, but I think the year before.
Oh, okay, yeah. And my bowling
So,
was terrible. I didn't go with my team. My friend was like, "Are you going to do it again?" I go, "You don't want me. Bowling's not my thing. We're going to play some ball, and I'm down." But bowling, I just suck. So,
well, but
but but I'm glad to be part of the DO thing, and it's awesome. So
yeah, you'll be there again this year,
great, awesome.
right?
Oh,
You
will I
will.
be? I don't know because I think we're on tour when it's happening, isn't it? Pretty soon.
I think
I
it's in
think I'm.
November. I think it's in
Yeah, I
November.
don't know.
Yeah.
I could be here. If I'm here, I certainly will go, without a
Very,
doubt.
very, very cool. Well, John, I wish we had more time. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, bro. If I ever see you out at the Rainbow, I don't know if you still drink, but I will buy you a
I
beer.
do. Hell
Yeah,
yeah. I'd love
yeah.
to
But
in between tours.
um,
Yeah. And you know, the
yeah,
Armored Saint record's coming out in April, and it's sounding killer. We're mixing it right now. It's sounding awesome. So when the Saint record is done and you get an advance copy, let's do another interview talking about that.
totally would love to. And shout out to Bill Matoyer, great buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and give a high horns and fist bumps out to the Armored Saint camp, also to the Category 7 guys. Looking forward to catching you guys at the whiskey again because I was there for your debut show, which is
Awesome.
amazing.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, so we'll talk to you soon and cheers, bro.
All right, brother. Thanks a lot. Have a good week.
You too.
See ya.